Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja. We got a great Ask a Ninja from Susan in Reno, Nevada. Sounds like she had a house flood and they did some work on the house and they were out of the house for a while, had some possible bad workmanship going on in the crawl space in different areas. Now she's got a mold problem that she's having to deal with. So let's read what she wrote and see if we can help her out. So we've just moved back into our house after a year away due to a water and mold damage in our crawl space. We hired a water fire restoration company to remove the mold and it passed an environmental testing requirement per insurance. After the cleanup and restoration work, the addition of sump pumps and vent fans and vapor barrier job was poorly done. So we are hiring another contractor to redo that work. It has been several months since the work was completed. I conducted a mold test with a petri dish from an online firm. The downstairs, the first floor was clean, and the upstairs, the second floor, had a high count and several kinds of mold. The upstairs has a smell to it as well. How can I determine where the mold is coming from on the second floor so that we can treat it? And here's a picture of the results. Just so you know, if you guys want to do your own DIY test kit, you could do a petri dish like Susan has done here. And we also have these DIY test kits available on the DIY store, and I'll put a link to that up above so that way you can do your own DIY test kit. But there's some testing that probably needs to be done all throughout the upstairs. A lot of times whenever you have a mold problem, that second floor could have already had a problem. I just want to be complete and upfront with all of you. So you could have already had a second floor mold problem independent of the first floor, but now that you're aware of what happened to the home, you're more sensitive to what happened, so you're checking other places. So the crawl space and the first floor could have been fine now that they remediated the crawl space mold. So what I would do is check around the upstairs to see if it has something going on independent of the crawl space. I always like using infrared meters. I like the FLIR meter. It's really good. It's a thermal imaging camera. It's great at checking temperature differences. It won't look for moisture. You could also use an infrared meter like this. This is also really good at checking temperature differences. And the reason why I want you to look at temperature differences is normally that's an indication of water a lot of times. And then of course the general pinless moisture meters are good for your drywalls and around your toilets and things like that. And then obviously you'll want to make sure you have a good humidity reader. All of these, I'll put a link in the description so that way if you want to get those, you can. But you just want to be on high alert for areas of the house that you normally wouldn't think of. Number one, I would check the HVAC ductwork. If you have a central heating and air ductwork in the second floor, maybe it's going through the attic. If the attic is hot and humid, I can't imagine Reno, Nevada being hot and humid, but if it's hot and humid up there, you could have condensation problems happening from that ductwork, getting sucked into the ductwork. They could be sweating and dripping onto whatever your ceiling is, probably drywall, getting into the insulation up there. Unless it's spray foamed, it might be holding moisture or something like that. So you want to get up in the attic, check with these moisture meters, use these thermal imaging cameras to do that. Check for a roof leak. You could have something going on the rooftop that's dripping down into the attic. As I mentioned before, the HVAC duct, I would take this little guy right here and set it near the register, turn on your heating and air unit and see what kind of humidity is coming out of the register. If it's above 35, 45%, usually the HVAC unit is blowing cool, dry air out of it. So if you're getting like 55, 60, 70% humidity coming out of that register, you might need to have your ducts cleaned or the HVAC unit maintenance, or you could just have some kind of moisture problem happening, as I mentioned before. Check around the toilets. Use the general pinless meter. Check around those toilets. Look for wax ring leaks. Check to make sure the bathroom fan is working properly. If you got several bathrooms on the second floor, they could be adding to the humidity. If you've got a laundry room up there, these are all areas you want to walk around with these meters and check and use that thermal imaging or infrared product to kind of look for temperature differences that might. I love the thermal imaging. It's expensive. I mean, just to be honest with you, but going through a mold remediation is not easy. I mean, they're several $100s, but they're well worth it. Mine hooks up to my phone, so that way I can always have it. You also want to look to make sure that exterior walls. So on that second floor, you could have a flashing issue from the roof. You could have different things going on the exterior. If you have brick on the outside, it could be getting behind that brick. If you have siding or some other kind of exterior, check for that and check those studs on the inside of the house. Look at the bottom of the baseboard and see if you see any discoloration where the baseboard meets the floor. You want to get into that hyper CSI mode where you're like looking at everything differently and just kind of turn the lights off, use your flashlights, use those things to see if you see bubbles in the drywall or perhaps like I mentioned, you've got a buckling of the baseboard off of the drywall. Those are all indications of moisture. All right. And of course, if you can't figure this out on your own, I would recommend you hire probably a mold inspector, perhaps someone that's in the home inspection trades or someone like that, independent of the insurance company, to make sure that they're representing you and not the insurance company's needs. But check your local listings for good people in the Reno, Nevada area, and I'm sure you can get that taken care of. And Susan, I appreciate you writing that in. I'm Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja. We hope this information was helpful. If you've got some tips for Susan, make sure you comment down below what you might think those could be. And my name is Michael Church. We hope you make it a happy and blessed day, and we'll see you later.